so we'll start with pedigree analysis. So what is pedigree? So pedigree is a pictorial representation of family history. It is an important tool for studying inherited diseases and other traits. Pedigree analysis uses family trees information and about the affected individuals. What are the goals of pedigree analysis? Is to determine the mode of inheritance, whether it is dominant, recessive, partial dominance, sex-linked, autosomal, or mitochondrial, maternal effect, etc., and predict the risk of disease in future offsprings in a family, and obviously the genetic counseling. Okay. So what are the most common signs and symbols which are used in pedigree analysis? So most of you must be knowing about the common symbols and signs which are used. So male is denoted by square, female is denoted by circle, and these are hollow. Okay. And when the affected, it will be shown as a dark. Okay. So third symbol you can see as a marriage line between the two. Okay. Fourth, when there is a consanguineous marriage, there will be double line. Okay. And after that, there will be generation one, generation two, and the siblings you have to denote one, two, three sequentially. Okay. If it is an identical twin, on the right side top, you see that how the twins are denoted, and if they are identical, you will see the horizontal line which is joining the two. If they are fraternal, that is non-identical twins, then you will only see the particular sign without middle line which is joining them. Okay. And after that, the affected male and affected females, then if there is a history of or affected by history only, okay, in that particular case it will be shaded. Then you have a carrier which is presented as a circle with a dot in between, and disease individuals are denoted by a slash line, and if the sex is unknown, then the last sign is as it is shown. Okay. So a typical pedigree will have generations, that is generation one, two, three, etc. And as you see in this particular figure, okay, there is a marriage line, and then there are siblings. Okay. And the affected uh, proband is shown. Okay. So this is what is the typical pedigree. So what are the basic patterns of inheritance? You can have autosomal recessive, you can have autosomal dominant, you can have X-linked recessive, you can have X-linked dominant, which is rare, and it can be Y-linked. So these are the common patterns of inheritance. Okay. Now, some examples of various hereditary disorders. Okay, you should know few examples from each because they can be asked in the examination. Okay, so autosomal recessive one, you have cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, Tay-Sachs disease, phenylketonuria. Okay, these are common or commonly they are asked in the examinations. Okay, autosomal dominant, you have Huntington's disease, Marfan syndrome, achondroplasia, and familial hypercholesterolemia. Okay, then X-linked recessive, you have hemophilia A, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, red-green color blindness, and G6PD deficiency. While X-linked dominant, which is rare, in which you have Rett syndrome, Fragile X syndrome, Alport syndrome, some forms of Alport syndrome. Okay, not all forms of Alport syndrome. Alport syndrome has got a various mode of inheritance. Okay, and incontinentia pigmenti. Because these are the few examples of inherited disorders from autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant, and X-linked recessive and X-linked dominant. Okay. Then how is the expression of autosomal and sex-linked traits? Okay. So autosomal traits are caused by the genes or autosomes. We know that there are total 23 sets of chromosomes, out of which 1 to 22 are autosomes and 23rd pair is a sex chromosome. Okay. So when we speak of autosomal recessive or autosomal dominant trait, generally they are affecting chromosome from 1 to 22. Okay, pairs. And sex-linked traits are caused by the genes on the sex chromosome X or Y. When we speak of X-linked recessive or X-linked dominant traits or diseases, we are talking about this sex chromosomes X and Y. Okay, so below is a figure. There are 23 pairs. Okay, and 22 autosomes are there. and 23rd pair is a sex chromosomes, which may be XX or XY. Okay. So coming to the recessive inheritance, suppose if small d is a disease allele and capital D is a normal, then small d uh, and small d genotype are affected. Okay. So typically it is not seen in every generation, and affected offspring can be born to unaffected parents. So what is the what what is most in recessive inheritance? It will be present only when both genotypes are present. Okay, both alleles are present, and typically it is not seen in every generation. That means there is a skipping of the generation, and affected offspring can be born to unaffected parents. So this is one of the pattern of inheritance in recessive inheritance. Then how the dominant inheritance will get manifested? If suppose capital D is a disease allele and small d is a normal, then only DT genotype will be disease free. Okay, that means small d which is normal, if it is present, then it will be normal. Okay, even if there is a single capital D, there will be expression of the disease. Okay, so dominant trait disease found in every generation. So dominant will be present in every generation, while recessive there will be skipping of generation. Okay, and affected offspring never born to unaffected parents. So this is what is the difference between the autosomal, sorry, dominant and the recessive pattern. So for this, there is an assumption that there is 100% penetrance and there are no new mutations. So if this is assumption is there, then there is a affected offsprings will never born to unaffected parents, and it will be seen in every generation. Okay. Now let's talk about autosomal recessive. So in autosomal recessive, it is this trait is rare in pedigree. Trait often skip generation. Okay, this is one of the peculiarity of recessive. There will be skipping of the generation, and trait affects males and females equally. Okay, so look at this pedigree. You will find that there's a skipping of the generation. You see the generation one, the husband and wife. Okay, they do not have the disease, but if you see the sibling, that sibling in second generation, okay, which is dark here, male has got affection, and you see in the third generation, okay, their female is affected. Okay, so both male and female are affected. Okay, and there is a skipping of the generation. See, in the third generation, female is affected, but the parents are unaffected. So it can happen. There is a skipping of generation, and trait will affect males as well as females equally. The common examples of the autosomal recessive we have already seen, that is cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, phenylketonuria, and Tay Sachs disease. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's see about autosomal dominant. So this trait is common in pedigree, and trait is found in every generation. So there is no skipping of the generation. It appears in both sexes in equal frequency. Affected individuals will transmit the trait to 50% of their children, regardless of sex. Okay, so all generation will get affected. Every generation there will be manifestation. Okay, look at the pedigree chart. Here the male is affected. Okay, in the next generation again you find the male is affected, the female is affected, there is one unaffected male also. Okay, and in third generation also you see the affection. So examples of autosomal dominant diseases are achondroplasia and Huntington's disease. Okay, so typically there may be question that they will give you the pedigree and they will ask you identify the pattern of inheritance, and the option will be autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant, X-linked recessive, and X-linked dominance. Okay, so you have to look whether males are affected, whether females are affected, how is the affection, and second, whether there is a skipping of the generation or not. Okay, if there is a skipping of generation, it is a recessive inheritance. Are you getting it? Is
Yes, sir.
it clear? Huh. And if
Yes.
it is a dominant inheritance, every generation you will see the affection irrespective of the sex in autosomal dominant. Okay. Now coming to the X-linked recessive. Okay. Now in X-linked recessive, this trait is rare in pedigree. Trait will have a skipping of the generations. Okay. Recessive will always have a skipping of the generation. Affected sons are usually born to unaffected but carrier mothers. So mother will be carrier, but she will be unaffected. Okay. So affected son will have typically the unaffected mother, but she is a carrier, and affected fathers do not pass trait to their sons. There is no father to son transmission. Okay, males are more often affected than the females. Okay, is that clear? So, examples of the disease are hemophilia, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, and G6PD deficiency. Okay, so let's see this particular. So, in X-linked diseases, there are three different scenarios which can happen. You can have a affected father and a normal mother. Okay, so there can be question on this. The father is suffering from this, and the disease name will be given. Okay, it is an X-linked disease, and the mother is normal, and they will ask you the probability of affection in the next generation. Okay, so you should know how to calculate it. Okay, so father genotype is XDY, okay, where XD represents disease causing the allele. Okay, mother's genotype is XX, okay, and there is no male to male transmission possible. All daughters will become carrier. All sons will be normal, that is unaffected. So genetic probability will be son will be 100% normal and daughters will be 100% carriers. Okay, because they will be inheriting the affected X from the father. Okay, and sons will inherit the unaffected Y. Okay, so 100% daughters will be carriers, 0% daughters will be affected, 0% sons will be affected, and 100% sons will be unaffected. And remember this, because when the option will be there, no, you have to remember there will be 100% daughters are carriers. Okay, and 0% daughters are unaffected. So in the options, they can confuse you. One option can be 100% daughters are affected, 100% daughters will be carriers, affected daughters will be 0%. Okay, but the most suitable options in which all possibilities are there, that you have to select. Okay, like 100% daughters will be carrier, affected daughters will be 0%, sun will be 0% affected, and 100% sons will be unaffected. Okay, so there is no carrier status in the sun in that particular case. Okay, different from carrier mother pattern. So if the mother is carrier in that particular case, this probability will be different. So this is for the where father is affected and mother is normal, and this you will understand when we learn the Punnett square. Okay, the next topic is a Punnett square. You will understand this in a better way. Okay, so second scenario is where father is affected but the mother is carrier. Okay, in this particular case, there is a 50% son will be affected and 50% normal. Daughters will be 50% affected and 50% carriers. Okay, so these are the probabilities in this particular scenario. Third scenario, in which female is a carrier but there is a normal male. So there is a 50% chance of each son to be affected and 50% chance for each daughter to be a carrier. This means that 25% of their children will be unaffected boys, 20% will be affected boys, 25% will be unaffected girls, and 25% will be carrier girls. Okay, so these are the possible options in this particular case. So female carrier plus normal male. So this is a third scenario in X-linked recessive. So these are the possible questions which are asked in this particular topic. So what are the rules of X-linked recessive inheritance? Males are more frequently affected. They only need one X affected X. Okay, because other is a Y, so this particular disease X will have expression. Then there is no male to male transmission. Father will pass Y to the sons, not X. Okay, and females are affected only if father is affected and mother is a carrier. Only in that particular scenario the females will get affected. That is why it is common in males. So if at all the pedigree chart is given, then you see what is the affection in the sex. Okay, that is how you will come to know whether it is a sex linked or autosomal. Okay, Now let's see about X-linked, difference between the X-linked dominant and X-linked recessive. So if there is an affected male in X-linked dominant, all daughters will be affected. In X-linked recessive, all sons will be unaffected unless mother is a carrier. Okay, if there is a male affected in X-linked recessive, son will never be affected. Okay, while X-linked dominant, all daughters will get affected. Now, in X-linked dominant, if you have an affected female, in that particular case, there is a 50% chance for every child to get affected. Okay, and X-linked recessive, affected female is rare. Okay, so examples of the X-linked dominant are hypophosphatemic rickets and Rett syndrome, and X-linked recessive are hemophilia, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, etc. So Rett syndrome is often lethal in males, and surviving cases are typically females. Okay. Now the last one is X-linked dominant. There is one more Y-linked also, but among these four, X-linked dominant. So this trait is found in every generation. Okay, because it is a dominant, so it will be found in every generation. Affected son must have an affected mother. Okay, affected mother, if heterozygous, will pass the trait to 50% of sons and 50% of their daughters. Okay, so affected son has to have affected mother. Affected mother, if heterozygous, will pass the trait to 50% of their sons and 50% of their daughters. Affected father pass the trait to all their daughters. Okay, males and females are equally likely to get affected. Again, this is a dominant trait. This is a dominant condition, so both males and females will be affected. Okay, X-linked dominant traits tend to be more common in females. Okay, but there is no sufficient evidence for this. But if you see more more female affection, then it is likely to be X-linked dominant. Okay, but males can get affected. Okay, so if you look at the pedigree, every generation it is present, and females are more commonly affected. Okay, so 100% incidence of affected daughters from an affected father suggests X-linked dominance. So look at this, the third generation, all females are affected, they have affected father. So 100% incidence of affected daughters from an affected father suggests X-linked dominance. Okay, so these are likely the questions you may be given a pedigree chart and will be asked to identify the pattern. So remember, there will be skipping of the generations in the recessive inheritance, and there is all generations there will be presence in if it is a dominant pattern. Okay, then here how you will identify X-linked recessive? In X-linked recessive, what happens in X-linked recessive? Yes.
Sons will be normal, daughters will be carriers.
Correct. Okay, but there is no father to son transmission.
Father.
Okay,
Yes.
is that right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now we continue with the X-linked dominant. So X-linked dominant diseases are extremely unusual and often they are lethal in males, only seen in females. And examples we have seen in congenitia pigmenti, X-linked recessives, and hypophosphatemia. Okay. So this is the X-linked dominant disease where affected male mates with a normal female. Okay, so the father is affected, mother is normal, and this is X-linked dominant. Okay, so daughters will be affected and son will be normal. So we have to find out the mention the genetic outcome. Okay, so you have affected male and normal female. So genetic outcome we need to calculate. So affected father is a X affected Y, passes X chromosome to all his daughters but not to his son. Okay, and normal mother always passes a normal X chromosome to both sons and daughters. So children genotype will be all daughters will have X affected X, so they will be affected since they inherit father's affected X, and all sons will have XY, so they will be normal since they inherit father's Y chromosome, not the affected X. Okay, so this is what is the X-linked dominant. Okay, now Y-linked inheritance generally they will not ask you, but traits are found in every generation. trait on the Y chromosome are only found in males, never in females. The father's traits pass to all sons, and dominance is irrelevant here. There is only one copy of each Y-linked gene. Okay, so if you see at the pedigree, generation 1, if the father is affected, the sons will get affected in the next generation. Okay, so this is what is the Y-linked generation. So that finishes the pedigree analysis. Okay, welcome to the class. So thank you.